candy bar.
No, yeah, because it has shifted. Because it used to be always my chair. Now it's the two of your chair. Right. Good evening, everyone. I will go ahead and call tonight's meeting to order. Thank you to those attending in person tonight and those staying engaged by watching our recording at a later time. The public is reminded that if they wish to speak during community comment, they will need to fill out a speaker form located in the lobby on the table and turn it in to Board Secretary Kim Colvin, seated to my left. Comments will take place during the designated community comment portion of our agenda. And before we move into tonight's agenda, I want to take a moment to introduce those seated with me at the table. To my right, Superintendent Degner, Directors Pilcher Hyatt, Eastham, Vice President Williams. To my left, Directors Abraham, Clausen, and Finch, and Board Secretary Kim Colvin. That takes us to tonight's agenda, and our first item is the Education Showcase, which is our athletics program, I believe, and Superintendent Degner.
Yeah, I'm going to turn it over to Kristen here and let her introduce the folks we have with us. And I'll just say one quick thank you to you all for coming and letting us celebrate you a little bit tonight.
Thank you. Good evening. We are going to highlight tonight some of our state qualifying high school athletic teams, and we're focusing on the spring and summer teams tonight. We have representation from all three of our high schools, and we are going to kick it off with Principal John Bacon from City High.
Yep, right over there, John. Yep, that'd be great. You guys can stand right in the middle here.
Stand right in front.
All right, everybody. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having us tonight. We are thrilled to be with you. This is a great opportunity for us to showcase some student athletes and coaches and celebrate the great things that they did from the spring and summer season. Before I begin, I just want to give a quick shout out to our City High student senators and their staff that work with them. They pulled off just an awesome homecoming week for us last week, and so much goes into that, from the parade to the festivities throughout the week to a really successful dance with over 1,000 kids. That is really a student-run production, and they did just a great job. So I wanted to thank them for that. All right, well, we have a lot to celebrate from spring and summer in terms of athletics. We'll start, let's see, our women's track and field program. They were not able to be with us tonight. The coach had a conflict, and so they weren't able to come, but I'm going to give them a shout out for qualifying 12 of 19 events for the state meet, and they had just a very successful season. So outstanding student athletes, and proud of women's track and field. But tonight we have our men's track and field and then our baseball program here being recognized. So we'll start talking about our men's track and field program. These guys qualified 17 out of 19 events for the state meet. The last 3 years, City High men's track and field, 3 years ago placed 6th in the state of Iowa, 2 years ago placed 2nd in the state of Iowa, and last year placed 3rd in the state of Iowa. It came right down to the last race last year. We were in first place going into that one and then got edged out, but still a 3rd place finish coming off a 2nd the year before that. Just spectacular. The team set 4 school records, and including the most points ever scored by a City High team at the state meet. And we have a very storied history in track and field at City High, so that is a great result for those guys. So Coach Mike Moore, and he's got some guys with us here tonight, so we want to give you guys a big shout out. Congratulations on an outstanding season. All right, and then up next, our baseball program. We have here tonight Coach Brian Mitchell and a couple of members from his team that qualified for the state tournament. This year we reached the state quarterfinals. The year before that, it was the state semifinals, and I believe the state tournament 3 out of 4 years for Coach Mitchell's program. It's been extraordinarily gratifying to watch this program really be built. When Coach Mitchell took over a decade ago, it was just a rebuilding job that happened, and just piece by piece. From the creation of a hitting facility on campus to the creation of a really exemplar youth program that provides baseball opportunities for countless kids on the east side of Iowa City to just a really thriving high school baseball program. They've won 30 games, I believe, each of the last 3 seasons, and really one of the finest programs in the state of Iowa. So huge shout out to City High baseball tonight as well. All right, and I think that's all from the Little Hawks tonight. Thank you for the opportunity. Dr. Ramey, if we need to go tie shopping, just let me know. Okay, thank you. All right.
Thanks, guys. Thanks. Thank you.
All right, next up we have Justin Colbert, principal at Liberty High, and some student athletes.
All right. Well, thanks for having us. Mr. Morrison wasn't able to be here tonight because he's back home at volleyball, but he did type up a script. So I told him I would stay to the script and not do any improv. So I'm just going to read right from my list here from him. All right. So here from Liberty, first team that we want to recognize is our boys track and field team, which doesn't look like we maybe one representative. Did you track this last year? Nope. All right. Don't have any representatives, but we're still going to shout out for them. All right, so boys track and field team qualified 9 of 19 events. 2 seasons ago, they did have an individual state champ in the 110 high hurdles as a junior, but he was unable to defend his title last year due to an injury. Track program has grown quickly. They had over 130 student athletes participate, which is pretty outstanding. Very proud of the participation numbers and success achieved under the direction of head coach Dr. Nick Borchert and his staff. So nice job, track, even though they're... That takes us to girls track, which is represented here. Our girls track team, under the direction of first-year head coach Neil Davis, qualified in 12 of 19 events. Program has seen a lot of early success with individual state titles, top 10 state meet finishes. Additionally, our participation numbers have also increased to almost 70 student athletes, which is a huge gain from the previous year. So also really excited about those participation numbers and the continued success of the program. So nice job. All right, next up is baseball. So Liberty Baseball returned to the Class 5A state baseball tournament in Iowa City for the 2nd consecutive year. Team is coached by first-year head coach Ubi Martinez, and the team upended number 2 ranked Cedar Rapids Prairie in the sub-state final to advance to the state tournament. They were defeated in the first round by number 1 ranked and eventual state champion Johnston. So congratulations, baseball team. All right, then last but not least, the Liberty Lightning boys soccer team. They advanced to the 3A state soccer tournament for the first time ever this past spring. Under the direction of first-year head coach Matt Harding, the Lightning won every game in the tournament and captured the 3A state championship. The Lightning defeated Norwalk 5-0, which is the largest margin of victory in a boys championship game in state history, and the first team state title for boys at Liberty. So congratulations, boys soccer. All right, that's everything from Liberty. Thank you.
Thank you.
And last but not least, we have West High Principal Mitch Gross with his student athletes.
As everybody lines up, just so I can mention, I know it's a pain in the booty for you guys all to come here tonight, but it's a big deal. It's a big part of the school district culture to have positive athletic experiences, so thanks for getting out here tonight. It's really important.
I need to take notes from Mr. Colbert because I did not have my athletic director write up a script. So this is going to be a wing it. But first, I do want to start by saying, and I know, Kristen, when you introduced all these students from all 3 high schools, you said student athletes, and that's the thing we really take great pride in this district and West as well, that all these students are phenomenal in the classroom first and foremost before getting on the court in the field. I'm going to go by just who's here. Our girls tennis program qualified for the state tournament under Coach Brenda Guan, who is in her first season, just did an absolutely outstanding job, so congratulations, Coach Guan. Our boys track and field team, I don't see anybody from there, but they had 4 state championships in 4 different relays and finished 5th in the state. So we're really proud of what Coach Craig does. The other cool thing about our boys track and field program, it's probably our biggest program. It just keeps growing and growing. It's become a really inclusive team. Our girls track and field program is not here either because those coaches are at cross country right now, but they qualified in 10 events at the state tournament as well. Coach Stiles, Brad Stiles, is here for boys soccer, and they had a runner-up finish in a heartbreaking 1-0. Was it 1-0 or 2-1? 2-1. It was close. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was during our commencement. I was giving updates throughout commencement, and it was a heartbreaker. But I think there's very few programs as storied in this district as our boys soccer program. So congratulations, Coach Stiles. And then last but not least is Coach Mullers in the boys tennis, and he deserves a lot. He took over an absolute dumpster fire of a program from the previous coach. But this program too has just done an excellent job. And when the West Boys won the state championship this spring, it was the 64th state championship in West High history. But more importantly, it was the 27th out of 28th year where West High has won at least one state championship. And I say this to all the coaches at the schools: winning state titles, it's very, very difficult to happen. It just does not happen. It's a lot of work on the coaching staff, the athletes, the families, the administration. It really takes a village for that to happen. So congratulations to Westside Boys Tennis and all the athletes here tonight from all 3 schools. Thank you.
Thank you all again for coming and allowing us to celebrate your achievements. We know being a student athlete is taxing, but you all have been able to excel in that. So let's give them one more round of applause as they head out. Next on our agenda is community comment, but we do not have any, so I will move to approval of tonight's agenda. Is there a motion?
I move we approve tonight's agenda.
Second.
Board Secretary Coven, ready to vote?
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
And before we get to approval or pulling items from consent agenda, I wanted to check with directors if they had any questions regarding the review of bills this go around. Hearing none, are there any items directors would like to pull from tonight's consent agenda? Okay, since there are none, I would entertain a motion.
I move we approve tonight's consent agenda.
Second.
Board Secretary Coven, ready to vote?
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
And that takes us to policy review. I would look to Director Finch and Superintendent Degner if they had any comments, since Director Finch chairs that committee.
Very few comments, very few changes. We
Okay.
discussed this at last meeting, so I don't have anything further to add.
Okay. What about, do you want to add anything to 200, or was that both?
Oh, the 200 series, I'm sorry, yeah. Tonight, we discussed adding back in a code of ethics to our 200 series. And we'll look at that again at the next P&G meeting and hopefully approve that that night as well.
Great. Did anyone else have any comments or additions they wanted to add? Hearing none, it takes us to our discussion item for tonight, the I always have trouble remembering the letters, even though it's right there. The IASB Delegate Assembly Representative. As you all know, we need someone to represent us, and that's typically the day before the full start of the convention.
I think it was in the morning of the day everyone was there.
Okay,
Because
the
I
morning.
did it.
Well, you can either go, I think the reason why I'm thinking most people either go up the night before or drive super duper
Yeah.
early.
The agenda says Wednesday at 9 a.m. and
Yeah.
the convention actually starts on Thursday, technically.
So that's why I'm
yeah.
like, it does say Wednesday at 9, so I don't know if they're moving it.
So
That came straight from the website.
Yeah,
I'm just curious, does that mean the person who volunteers has to get there a full day before?
yes. Based on what's out there for the agenda.
Well, typically, board members attend
That day?
the workshops
Yeah.
that day, but whoever does the delegate assembly.
If nobody else, I mean, I'm happy to do it.
I'm just unfortunately not going to be going to the assembly this year. I feel terrible because our City High folks are going to be there, and yeah, I just couldn't get the days.
Okay.
I am coming to the conference, but not until Wednesday night because I have an out-of-state work obligation, so I can't do it. But I would, if we're nominating, I would nominate you, President Malone, since you just, I don't know if everyone at the table heard it, but I heard you say,
I heard it.
You're interested
I
in
would
doing
second that if we need to vote.
Interested. I said if no one else is able to do it. I said I am more than happy to do that. And
It's
yeah.
a really good thing to
It
do.
is.
I think I'm in court. I don't think I can be there, but
Yeah.
I also think it would be great if President
I've done
Malone
it
would like to do
before,
that.
and I'm happy to do it again. All right, that was easy. Next up is our equity update, and that's our Ombuds Annual Report.
Yeah, I'll invite Janet Abejo Parker up. It's been a while since you guys have heard from Janet. You see her come and listen to our community comments different times, but she's here to present to you guys this evening with her second Ombuds Annual Report. I think if I got that right, second time we're doing it, right? Yep. So with that, I'll turn it over to Janet. I think she's all set up and ready to go.
Thanks so much, Superintendent Degner. Can everyone hear me okay? I am pleased to present the second Ombuds Office Annual Report. Much easier to present the second time around versus the first time around. So I'm very happy to be here to do that. So I'll start by just providing some reminders about the Ombuds role, walk through the 2022-2023 data in the annual report, and then share some results from the Ombuds feedback survey. So as a reminder, the primary duties of the Ombuds are to provide an informal, confidential space where individuals may bring forth their concerns and discuss options, and secondly, to raise awareness of those concerns and emerging issues. So the purpose of an annual report certainly speaks to that second primary duty. In accordance with the International Ombuds Association, or the IOA, I must balance providing helpful data to the organization with being mindful of confidentiality of the office. As a reminder, per the International Ombuds Association Standards of Practice and Code of Ethics, the Ombuds Office is meant to operate as an independent, impartial, informal, and confidential resource. As you can see, confidentiality is often mentioned as the Ombuds superpower or the defining characteristic of Ombuds practice. It's what makes the Ombuds Office quite unique in their role. And as we review the data and walk through the annual report together, here is a reminder of how I may often assist with the concerns that are coming through my office. So for instance, any individual that comes to speak with me, I may assist by connecting those visitors with the relevant district context resources, connecting them with community resources, just getting information on a district policy or process, conducting informal mediations, providing feedback to district leadership, whether that's anonymously or not, and sharing conflict resolution best practices. So this year I provided terminology as a new section in my annual report in order to provide clarification on the terms I use throughout the report. For example, it's important to note concern is used as an umbrella term to cover what could be just questions, issues, or concerns, or simple just requests for support or resources. And here are the list of 10 uniform reporting categories that I used for every concern that came through my office. These are per the International Ombuds Association. And the definitions of each of these categories as well as the subcategories are provided in the appendix of the annual report, and that is something new that I added to the report this year. All right, so I start off the report by providing some general contact and concern data. So in that time frame, I did receive 127 total contacts, resulting in 150 total concerns that were categorized, and completed 108 consultations. There was a 27% increase in total contacts from the previous year. So visitors predominantly contacted the ombuds via email. Visitors also predominantly requested consult via phone or video call. And employees were the predominant constituent group contacting the ombuds office this last year at 59%. So this data is quite similar to last year's data. And I start off by providing an overview first of the data when you look at all constituents together. So parent, guardians, students, and employees, what does that data look like when looked as a whole? So I did provide where those concerns are based from, as well as the most frequent concern categories as well for all constituents. I then break down the data to what does the data look like for parent guardian concerns only and student concerns only. So what is that data like when just looking at that constituent group? Again, you can see that information and where the concerns are based from for parent guardians and students. And you can also see the most frequent concern categories for parent guardians only and student concerns only. Here is where I provide a bit more detail. So I pulled the top concern categories for parent guardian concerns and student concerns. And then I list for each what were those most frequent subcategories. And in the right-hand column, I provide a bit more detail and information on those subcategories, describing what types of concerns or questions came through my office. I then also provide information just looking at what concerns came from employees only. This year, I did provide an additional data point, and that's that second circular graph you'll see there. So what positions are concerns coming from? So thought that might be helpful to include. I've seen that in other ombuds reports. Similarly, here is the additional detail provided for the most frequent concern categories and subcategories for employees only. Now that I had 2 years of data, I thought it would be interesting to provide that year-to-year side-by-side comparison. So you can see kind of the shifts in the concern categories, and I really think it will be interesting when I'm able to add that third year next year and see what that looks like with all of this. So now we'll jump into the survey results. So had 21 respondents, which is 19.4% of those that completed consult with me, and provided some data points about those responses. For example, 90% of the respondents stated they would use the office again and would refer others to the office. And these two are arguably the most important data points. So first, explaining how I assist those that come through my office. What was the result of your communication with the Ombuds office? And if you had not contacted the Ombuds office or there was no Ombuds office to contact, what might have happened instead? I also continue to monitor how individuals are learning about the Ombuds office. So similar to last year, mostly referred by staff members. But I did have great feedback from one parent. They shared that they were referred to me by their child's friend, another student, and I thought that was such a win, right? So how cool is that, that upon hearing their friend's parent mention a concern, yeah, you know who you should contact? The ombudsman office. And I'm like, oh, that's so cool, right? I wish I could high five that student or shake their hand. I thought that was so fun to know about. So here's some feedback from the Ombuds survey as well. I think it was so important as a brand new district resource to provide visitors the opportunity to provide feedback on their experience when they did reach out to the Ombuds office. So I truly appreciate positive feedback as well as the constructive feedback that I get. But it's just so nice to call out when you're trying to accomplish something and they word it better than you ever could. So I'll just read the three that really spoke to me. It is extremely valuable to have that confidential neutral party to help find solutions to problems, and Janet was a really great resource who made me feel heard and helped me identify options. That's the point of the Ombuds office. Also, I loved the very succinct ones. I don't know that I could put it in that few words if I tried. It brought awareness through respectful communication. So short, but great summary of the services as well. And then she was very supportive while also professional and helped us to problem solve. So for this year, I condensed and consolidated my strategic goals instead of 5 to 3 main areas. I didn't remove any goals from last year. The first year. They seem to have some overlap, so this ended up being a great way to consolidate them into these 3 areas. So providing high quality Ombuds services, promoting awareness of Ombuds office services, and providing upward feedback that results in continuous improvement. So in summary, the Ombuds office continues to receive support and positive feedback. The Ombuds office will continue to work towards those strategic goals. For example, right now I'm in the process of providing upward feedback to leadership by meeting with district admins one-on-one to walk through the annual report, share any department-specific data while being mindful of confidentiality, but also acquiring feedback from them on how I can best help with addressing concerns going forward or how to improve in addressing concerns going forward. Those have been very valuable meetings, enjoyable meetings. Oh, and additionally, I'll work towards promoting awareness of the office by commemorating the upcoming Ombuds Day on October 12th. So who knew there is an Ombuds Day? American Bar Association recognizes the second Thursday of October as Ombuds Day to improve public awareness of the role and encourage greater use of Ombuds services. So community relations is kindly assisting me in sending out communication to promote the Ombuds office to all constituents on that day. So the Ombuds office, the Ombuds role is a difficult position to pronounce, to understand, to initiate in any organization. I have heard many a cautionary tale of other ombuds who did not have the support starting their role that I feel I have here. And I think that speaks volumes of the leadership we have here. I am so grateful to be able to serve all parent guardians, students, and employees in this unique role at this very special district. So thank you to Superintendent Degner, to all of the district admin, to the school board, all of the ICCSD staff, and the community overall for your continued support and partnership. I truly look forward to continued collaboration in order to serve all constituents in the best way possible. So, any questions?
Directors?
Janet, it's a remarkable report, and you're doing remarkable, great work. I can remember when we first met, when you first started this, I thought that Janet is going to be great at this role, and it's going to be a great value to the district. So I really appreciate what you're doing and how you're doing it. I do have a question, I guess. On the slide that says parents, guardians, and students subcategory detail, there, One of the concerns that reflects what I actually think that I hear quite often in talking with people in the community and in the district is that regarding a child's feelings of being bullied, harassed, intimidated in school, and concern about parents have for the safety of their children. And then the parents also have concerns regarding handling and adequacy of responses to bullying concerns. So you're seeing that, and I guess a question I would have maybe for Matt too is, have we been able to translate, not the details perhaps, or the information from those specific encounters, but are we able to use what you're hearing in such a way as to allow us to reduce the number of bullying and harassing incidents, and to have a more convincing and credible response for parents and students when that does occur?
Sure. I think, one thing that is extremely valuable when I have this data are those individual meetings I have with district admin. So those can be really, that time where I'm communicating as much detail as I can provide on those concerns that are coming through my office, whether it's going concern by concern while being mindful of confidentiality. But I think that's the value that my position can bring, is giving that information, and that's the purpose of the role, providing as much information as I can to leadership for them to do what they think is best in their roles. So I very much see them as the subject matter experts. When I meet with those district admin, it's amazing to see that they are interested in the data, they're wanting to hear more about the data, and they care, about the information. So, I don't always know, nor do I ask, and it's not my role to know what they decide to do with the information from there. But just having that data, I think, is valuable for the district leadership, for me to communicate in a one-on-one meeting that this is the kind of concerns that are coming to me. And a reminder that it is, my office is just a piece of the puzzle, so I can only speak to what's coming through my office. And the district admin in their roles, being the experts, they know a much bigger picture, and they can make that educated decision on how to move forward addressing that concern. But Matt, I'll let you chime in.
Yeah, I would probably iterate on what you were talking about there at the end. It's a piece of the puzzle. This is an outlet for people to go with concerns, and I think, like several of these categories, this is the one that hurts our hearts, right? I mean, these are the ones where your kid comes home and tells you that they are not having a great experience at school, and somebody is giving them a hard time and continuing to harass them or bully them. And then you feel as a parent like you're stuck, right? Where do you go? And so maybe you went to the school and you tried to report it there and didn't have a great experience. And that was one of the reasons for Janet's office, right? Is that we have another way to try to address that before a parent feels maybe helpless in a sense, and that their only options are ones that they don't want to pursue. So I think, if we were going to talk about harassment and bullying, of course, we would talk about the environment we try to create first from a tier 1 level to try to prevent all of that from occurring in the first place. And then what do we do when things go wrong? What do we do when things start to happen? And how do we use progressive discipline? How do we try to cure the environment so this individual isn't subject to that? But it's great to have this outlet for Janet because, like she had talked about from the premise of her talk with those 4 categories about what the Ombuds office is, it's an objective person that doesn't have an interest in, from a parent's perspective, thinking that they're just going to hold a party line or just say that this is what, of course, you're told to say, or of course, it kind of gives them a reset on neutral footing to say, I can believe my concern is going to be heard, and I feel like somebody's going to follow up on it for me, right? And at least explain my options. That's probably a better way to say it. Janet can't fix the concern, but she could say, here are your choices. Here's the additional things you can pursue. Because another thing, if you remember when we talked about this, was just the complexity in navigating the system. When you're going through something emotional like that, maybe it is an employment concern. It's not a bullying harassment concern. You're not your best self in trying to navigate how do you find all those processes and know who the next person to even talk to is. So I would just probably brag on Janet here for a minute too while I'm answering this question. She's just been a tremendous asset for us in that way. I mean, I think as you guys have known from meeting with her, she's approachable, she's kind, She's diligent in her work. She's excellent at follow through. That's what gives this office credibility, not the words on the page, not the nice charter she put together, the nice presentations. It's the fact that's who she is when she meets with people. And so I could tell you we were nervous about the office at its creation, and how that would go. But she's greatly alleviated all those fears, and it's been a great addition for our district.
Great.
One point I wanted to make is at slide 17 here, where the second part of that, if you had not contacted the ombuds office, what might have happened instead? And it's great that 3 out of the 21 respondents said they might have left the district and did not, or they might have filed a lawsuit. But I think what really stands out for me is that they would have done nothing. So 2/3, I believe, would have done nothing. And so that is where your value comes in, and how, the trust that you've built with people, that they will come to you when they would not have gone to anyone else. And it's so important with the continuous improvement piece, because we can't fix things if we don't know about them. And so I commend you for that. One thing I did want to say, and because I'm still surprised that, with talking with friends, that they're still unaware of your office. And I don't know how. I'm always surprised to hear that, because it's been on the social media, it's on the website, it's on the emails. And so, obviously we want everyone to know about this resource. And so I don't know if there's anything more that we can do to increase your visibility, and if you've given any thought to that.
Absolutely. That's a great question. Every year I try to brainstorm more and more ideas to make sure people know about the Ombuds Office, and that's clearly one of my strategic goals, is promoting awareness of the Ombuds Office. I think as a brand new resource, that will be something that needs to be top priority for the first several years, 5 years or more, and continue to work with Kristen and her team in community relations with their ideas on how to further promote the office as well. They've been great giving me ideas and helping me do that. So, certainly something I'm hoping to improve on every year, year after year. So I do in my, a note from the ombuds, that's my specific message, is kind of a call to action. First, thanking those that referred people to my office, those that provided feedback to my office through the survey, and those that just shared, the information with colleagues, family members, friends, and to please continue doing that. I know that you all, do that, and district admin do that, and staff does that. So, I really hope that really, as I mentioned in my note from the ombuds, that's the most effective and impactful advertising I can hope for the ombuds office, is referral from a trusted source, a trusted friend. So, I certainly ask that of the public and anyone who knows of the ombuds office already to please keep sharing the information, and I'll keep looking to more ideas to continue promoting the ombuds office as well.
Any additional comments or questions?
No, just a thank you. I do think you're right. I think word of mouth is, because the issues are going to be complicated. They aren't going to fit neatly into boxes, and so people are going to come to you with that. So thank you for that approach. I would just say probably a funny social media post. So if you can find a way to make ombuds funny, then you probably have a career in advertising. And then maybe those banners behind the planes at the football games that everybody sees. But I really appreciate it, being a little lighthearted. But the truth is, this is about transparent accountability, and it's good, like, for Matt and his team to be a little nervous, like that's fair, right? That's because when people were asking for this back in 2017, they weren't nice about it. They weren't like, the district is awesome, you need an ombuds. It was the opposite. People were looking for accountability. And so the fact that we can bring that in, and that, these are relatively flat, probably is an indicator that things aren't dramatically out of whack, which is a good thing. But this is the kind of thing we want to have in place, because any one of those relatively small number of incidents could turn into a giant problem. And so this is like our canary in the coal mine a bit. And it just helps us know if there are problems out there. And then I think ultimately, not just helping people navigate it, but helping people feel heard and to really listen to them and validate experiences. Just, I think it says a lot about our district that we have this and that we continue to support it. And so I hope moving forward, we just very much continue to support this and watch these grow as we hear word of mouth and people find out about it. And hopefully we never get a big spike, because that probably means something's off in a bigger way. So just thank you for the work.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. The report was very informative, and I was excited to see that, I mean, in a good way, services are growing because you're addressing folks' concerns. And as Director Finch mentioned, there's a place for them to be heard and not just sit and be unheard and dissatisfied with their situation. So you're doing great work, and the board appreciates it. Thank you so much. Next up is our middle school update.
All right, we're going to have Lucas take this item for us tonight. The last time we talked about middle school, we focused on facilities and some of the construction updates. Tonight, we're going to focus more on programming. So with that, Lucas, why don't you go ahead and get started?
All right, good evening, everybody. Appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight, representing a really solid team that's been working behind the scenes to get the ball going. Obviously, August 24 is right around the corner, so we do know that there's a lot of information the community wants. There's a lot of information our staff and students want as well, so we're doing our best to be quick but thorough by getting that information out. So appreciate the opportunity. Again, the first part of these slides will be a little bit of a review from our previous presentation, and then the second part is new information for you tonight. So again, I want to highlight and review kind of our structure and schedule, which really you will see is not much different than what it was last time we presented. The core of what we're going to present tonight is the curriculum updates, and I think you'll be excited to hear some of the work that's being done by our team. And then we'll close with some hiring and staffing timelines that are right underway as we speak today. So again, I want to go back to everything we do should be aligned with our high reliability schools work. So as you can see here, the middle school rollout really should indicate the alignment between levels 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. But I want to focus on those levels 1 with leading indicator 1.1, 1.2, 1.4, and 1.8. Again, those were highlighted last time as well. We also talked about those overarching belief of teams, and you'll see that again highlighted today with how our 6th grade teams are structured. And then you'll also see with our curriculum work really focusing on those class offerings for kids, that we're not only focusing on a 6th, 7th, and 8th grade curriculum, we're also focusing on how that work can then translate into the high schools, so everything is aligned and pointing in the same direction with our district. So last time we reviewed this, again, nothing different. So the big thing you see here is a change with 6th grade compared to what 7th and 8th grade currently looks like. We are excited the fact that we are hiring our first core team of what would be called the leadership team with our 6th graders in each of our 3 middle schools. So again, the 6th grade will be represented with their core classes with 3 teachers, again focusing on ELA, math, and then that 3rd teacher focusing on social studies and science. So really nothing has really changed from what we had communicated out last time. But again, the exciting part of the change is the fact that we will soon have people in those positions, hopefully by this point next week. And again, the structure and schedule, so when we get to the curriculum, we're really focusing on that elective piece tonight. So really not looking at the core area because there's not a whole lot that's changing within the core area. Where the big change is happening is within our electives, both what we offer for our 7th and 8th grade, as well as what we're offering for our 6th grade students. Again, real excited the fact that this is an opportunity to change what's currently going on in our system and what's been going on for decades or even more within the Iowa City Community School District. So again, I want to keep coming back to our enrollment. So North Central and Northwest enrollment really has not changed. It's maybe fluctuated a couple here and there since the last time we projected our enrollments from our current enrollment with our 5th and 6th graders in our district. So Northwest and North Central has really stayed the same. Where we've seen the biggest increase right now is Southeast. From the last time we presented this, the numbers are actually about between 20 and 30 students larger for our projections, which for what we're looking for staffing really hasn't changed the idea of staffing, but that's something we need to continue to monitor from what we're projecting to what we're seeing actually in our classroom, so we can be mindful of the types of supports that are there for our kids and for our staff. So again, as we go through the curriculum piece here, we always want to focus with our 6th, service areas. We want to start the early exposure with our 6th grade students into 7th and 8th grade. But again, what I talked about is that alignment between what goes on in middle school to what goes on in high school. What we want to do is create as many opportunities within these 6 service areas as possible, and you're going to see those represented in some of our work here tonight. So when we think of our possible exploratory areas, now I'm not coming tonight and telling you this is exactly what it's going to look like. We're not even in October yet, but we do know that work is progressing, so we do know that there are going to be some decisions made very quickly. So we do know that when we take a look at, again, those exploratory areas, and kind of go back and refreshing to that, 6th grade looks a little bit different. They're going to have 6 different exploratories, where our 7th and 8th graders are looking at 4 electives that are aligned with the quarters. So we do know that 6th graders are required through Chapter 12 to have an art elective or art class, as well as a wellness and health. So those are 2 requirements. So what those look like can differ by our district. So we're looking ways, and we're exploring areas with our curriculum coordinators about how can we ensure that that's being done, how each and every single 6th grader in our district has that within their schedule, but how can we make it engaging and high interest for our kids? Then we want to take a look at those other 4 electives, so those other 4 exploratories that our 6th graders will have as well. We're looking at settling on an AVID for all of our 6th graders, even though it's a condensed 30-day unit, but all of our students in 6th grade will be exposed to the benefits of what AVID is. And I think you've seen in past presentations just the benefits that AVID has within our district. We're also looking at having more of a formal agreement and formal collaboration with junior achievement. And we're excited to have some of our 6th grade teachers that will be hired on for next year actually going to pilot what's called BizTown within their particular classrooms later on this spring. And when we have those simulations, it really culminates in a full day activity where they set up a storefront and kids go through what it means to run a business, be part of a business, shop in a store, have a budget, heaven forsake. So we're going to go through that, and when we have that at the end of the spring, we'll want to make sure that you guys are there so you can see how really great that is. One of our local districts had it last spring and talked about how great it was, but we're also excited to really have that formal collaboration with junior achievement. Then we also want to have a STEM-based exploratory as well as a family consumer science. We know that those are high interest for our kids. Some so high interest that they fill up before students can get in those in 7th or 8th grade. So we want to be mindful of how we can get kids interested in that early so they can kind of find some of those really high interest areas. So as they're then creating their schedule for 7th and 8th grade, in addition to high school, they know what those are because they're exposed often early to it. So when we talk about our curriculum updates, really that focuses on our HRS level 3, the guaranteed and viable curriculum. What's being taught and how is it being taught? So again, I keep coming back to that vertical alignment about what's being done in middle school. The worst disservice that we could have to a kid is offer these really cool things in middle school, and then they get to high school, they're not there. So we want to be mindful of what those offerings are, so as we start to identify those really passion areas for kids, they have something that's next. Again, we don't want to create limits that only are there for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. One thing that we know that we also want to have, and this isn't necessarily the case in all of our middle schools right now, because we have some classes that are offered in one building, but not the others. So we want to make sure, just as we're doing with our high school program of studies, that our middle school program of studies resembles that as well, that we have consistent course offerings that are offered at Northwest, North Central, and Southeast. It's a disservice for us and our kids that if they live on one side of town, they get a different set of classes offered to them than somebody else. So we want to be consistent. We want to make sure that we're reinforcing that. And then Carmen's probably sick of hearing the same spiel that I give for the first part of our meeting with our curriculum coordinators. I think we're about 5 or 6 in right now. And she usually finds an excuse to get out of those first few minutes, which I don't blame her. I wouldn't want to sit and listen to me either. But really working with our curriculum coordinators, and what we've really, and this started last spring, we kind of introduced it last spring, take the summer to think about it, work with your teachers that work within your content areas. Let's start reimagining what those electives can look like. So just because we've done something, and I can recall past life, about 10 years ago, our program of studies of what we're offering hasn't really changed in the last 10 years. So let's think through what some possible realignment courses could be for our kids. If it's offered in 7th and 8th grade, could we offer it early? An adjustment course, just because we've always offered it, doesn't mean we need to continue to offer it. So let's think through some possible things that we can adjust with what we currently have. And this is a great opportunity as well to start thinking through some addition of courses. while we're changing one thing and we're adding sixth graders to the building, let's start thinking through some other ways that we can get students involved within our courses. And this is a great opportunity to start thinking through and re-engaging not only our staff, but our students for what those courses could look like. So what we've done, so we're almost all the way through. So we're working with our curriculum coordinators to identify some potential new offerings for our kids. So as part of those meetings, like, all right, here's what we foresee for what the middle school's day will look like. What are some things that your teachers have always wanted to teach, kids have always wanted to take, but our program studies doesn't allow that? So what we're really challenging them to do are think of some high interest, high engagement classes that our kids would be passionate and interested in. So what we've asked them to do here over the course of the next 2 weeks, and our timeline that we're seeing is right around mid-October, is to create new courses that we could potentially give to our students in the middle school. We want to then take those course titles as well as course descriptions in student-friendly language, of course, and give that to our current 7th and 8th graders. If you had these types of classes within your building, what is your most interested classes? So we're going to have student input and student voice about what potential classes we could offer that may or may not currently exist within our program of studies. So we'll hopefully by this point next month, we'll have a pretty good idea, not what a 40 or 50-year-old thinks is interesting, but what an 11, 12, 13-year-old thinks is interesting and what they want to see within the building. And then we also want to make sure that our program of studies is updated. That's our challenge here in the next couple of months, is to make sure that's aligned with what we're doing over the course of the next couple of years. And then obviously once we identify those courses, we do know that there's could potentially be some new courses that we're going to put within our program of studies. So our work then as the winter, spring, and the summer is to make sure we build those courses, to make sure that guaranteed viable curriculum is there across all of our buildings, and our instructors and our teachers feel comfortable teaching that as well. All right, so staffing and hiring and timeline. So we came to you earlier before and said we have currently 42 existing sixth grade teachers in our district. We are broadcasting 42 teachers needed for next year. Great, right? Couldn't have worked out any better. So again, we put postings up about a week and a half ago just internally within our system. And I'm doing my best Nick proud tonight. He's at home. So I'm channeling my best Nick here tonight going through this with you. So we have currently posted for one math, language arts, and a social studies teacher in each of our 3 buildings. Those were posted to all of our internal candidates, or all of our internal employees. Interviews are scheduled for tomorrow as well as Thursday. We've had, Brady and I were kind of joking around earlier, like looking those first few days of what the applicants were looking like, we didn't see a huge number of applicants, like, oh gosh, this is gonna make our timeline real interesting. But as of coming into the meeting here tonight, we have just under 35, just in this first round of postings that are interested in interviewing for positions. So we have interviews scheduled with our current junior high administrators as well as a teacher representative that they're gonna start tomorrow, Thursday, and we had to add another day on Monday because of the interest level.
And that's internally?
That's internally only. Yep, we have not started posting that because we know the majority of our people need to shift within our system. So our goal is to have those people identified within the next week. One thing that we also know is very important for us is to have staff input with this process as well. So what we've asked each junior high administrative team to do as they hire their first math, social studies, and science, and language arts teacher, is they are going to serve as their core leadership team as we progress throughout the year and into the summer. So we have the input of a current 6th grade teacher about what we need to be mindful of as we transition to middle schools next fall. So we do know that there's going to have a couple more phases where they're hiring. So a second round of current content postings will go again in November. Then we foresee that looking at the high needs area will begin in January. We do know that the majority of any additional staffing that we need to do is within our exploratory classes. And what we're trying to do is be mindful of those particular positions because they're often very hard to find. You know, FCS, industrial technology, when we have those openings, it's really difficult to find quality applicants. Not only quality applicants, just applicants, period. So we do know we're going to be mindful of what that's going to look like, and we want to be ahead of the game so we can beat other districts to the punch here before they start posting for their positions. So our next steps, a lot, but kind of what our brief next steps are: continuing curriculum conversations. Carmen and I will continue to have those conversations here in the next couple of weeks. We're going to bring that survey back together. We'll then administer it to our students here over the course of the next month. And then we also need to identify ways that we're going to communicate to our families as well as our staff over the course of the next, whatever it is until next August when kids are going to be in the building. But we do know our families want to know sooner than that. So we want to be mindful of that sense of urgency that's there, and maybe the sense of apprehension that's there for some of our families. They just want to know, right? So we have to be very mindful of how we're going to go about communicating those next steps. So people, when they're sending their babies to 6th and 7th grade next year, they know that they're going to get taken care of.
Okay.
That's it.
Are there any questions, comments from directors? Director Petraya?
I do have one. So the first thing I was looking at is slide 6, where we look at the size of the middle schools. And we know that we look at the demographics in our elementaries, which would, until this year, this coming year, include 6th grade. And we look at ramming them, using RAM. So when I'm looking at these numbers, I'm just thinking, are we thinking about the demographics? Because I'd like to know if that weighs in to I'd like to know if it weighs in terms of how RAM weighs in our elementary schools. And I know we don't RAM our secondaries, but this middle school model gives us an opportunity to take a look at that. And we have very, very disparate demographics between, for example, Southeast and North Central, and we have a lot more students at Southeast. So I'm just curious about whether maybe you guys could give some thought to that. And that goes with, thinking about your curriculum decisions and everything, really. The next thing I was just going to mention is when you look at the exploratory options, I think it's really important to explain as soon as we can, as soon as you know what they are, explain what they mean. So, for example, we've had Castle at Southeast for several years. My kids have really liked it. A lot of kids have really liked that, whether it's 7th or 8th grade, whatever. A lot of parents still have no idea what it is, right? Because, again, like you said, you're sending your babies there, 6th and 7th grade, until you have one, you don't know what Castle is necessarily. Well, so if I'm looking at these exploratory options and I see Avid, I'm a huge fan of Avid, whether or not it's Avid or whatever Avid teaches. I love what it teaches. Well, I hope that we make sure when we do have those options decided on, we do a good job of explaining what they are, because Avid means nothing to anyone outside of this bubble, right? So like Castle meant nothing until someone said, oh, it's this cool thing where you've got these 3 different classes and people. So that's something I hope we can think about once you have those decisions made, to get those 5th grade parents thinking about it.
And we know we're going to have to strike the balance between, they're going to want to know, probably not the in-depth stuff right away. They just want to know, gosh, please tell me my kids are going to be okay.
Sure.
And once they know that, then we can go into those, more of the descriptors. So
Sure.
I agree.
Yeah, just on the RAM thing, because I think, this is always good to come back to it. And I think, with the middle school model, the one, obviously the numbers, big difference between, Northwest and Southeast, not so much, but North Central, that's pretty dramatic. But specifically, when we get to this level, thinking about those supports that we need, because, it can be it's just harder when you have, obviously 6th grade will be a little bit easier because we don't have as much, but anytime you start to separate those courses out, the math becomes a lot harder to staff. But for sure, when we're looking at support, so what kind of counseling is available, what kind of therapy supports, what kind of social services are available, especially as we see those FRL numbers, that sort of thing, I just think is always good to be mindful of. I guess my question was the slide before, slide 5. So are we projecting out this change with semesters? Because that's different.
At the middle school, yes.
Okay. And do we think that's going to lend itself towards a change at the high school level at some point?
Conversations that will be had.
Great conversations. Okay. Just point.
I can still say I'm fairly new, but I know that's not a new conversation that's been held. I've received the notes from a very concerned staff member who wanted to plug whatever they thought.
Sure. And I guess the thing that strikes me as interesting, considering at work, I'm like, is it Friday yet? Or is it May yet? Like looking at this, I'm like, wow, that's right around the corner. So I'm sure you guys are super busy. So thank you for your work. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't envy it, but you know, I also think, you know, that it's a process. We need to get as much in place as we can to notify people, and we need to. It's going to be a work in process. You know, we're not going to get it perfect the first time. Like, to be a certified HRS school, you don't have to be perfect, but you have to show that you have these things in place, that you can be flexible and move. So I'm really excited with the progress. I think from the last time, you know, you've built on that, and so again, it's exciting. You know, it's like this just-in-time learning that we're doing that I think we're going to have to do, and probably even throughout next year as we tweak and look at this. So, yeah, looks great.
Thanks for coming tonight, Lucas. I really appreciate your mindfulness to the vertical alignment and also how you're incorporating the student voice. I really like hearing that. This is just a really simple logistics question about band. Will that be during the day, or will it still be after school?
For sixth grade in particular, you're saying?
For sixth grade band, yeah.
Right now, you know, we're still discussing, having conversations with Jay, our new music curriculum coordinator. We're looking at that being opposite PE. So every other day structure is kind of what we've tossed out there because of the only 2 courses outside of their core classes. And that lends itself to PE, music for one of those 2, and then exploratory SE.
It would be really nice to have band during the school day.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you for the presentation. I just had one. You want to ask a question? Oh, no, I wasn't ending. Okay, yeah, I wasn't ending. I'm not ending. Thank you. I just had one question or comment. I know as far as next steps, you talk about communicating information to families. And when I hear families, it's normally the grown-ups to reassure them. But how are we getting into schools and into 5th grade classes to reassure the kiddos? Because I know some 5th graders throughout the district, and they have lots of questions that I think it would be beneficial to sort of ease some of those concerns that they have. Because, man, these kids are asking about grades and curves, and will I get lost? Is there somebody to help me? They have a lot of questions.
It's a good point. I mean, Eliza and I will have to work through this over the course of the next few months. I mean, not only have to be mindful of the 5th graders, but the 6th graders in the buildings too. So 2/3 of those kids are brand new that have never experienced junior high or middle school before. So it's always a difficult transition to begin with, let alone when you're transitioning 2/3 of your population as a brand new experience. So we're going to have to start those conversations early. Probably, you know, not probably, we'll be starting those conversations earlier than we traditionally do when we have students start building schedules and, you know, have those typical and normal transition activities from 6th to 7th, or in this case, 5th and 6th to 6th and 7th.
Great. Director Williams. Thank you. You just had your wrapping it up voice on, so I thought we were wrapping it up. I'm one of those parents with a 5th grader that President Malone just referenced. So, you know, I love these middle school updates, and I'm so excited about the direction you're taking things. My question is, you know, when we're talking about other possible exploratory units for the 6th grades, and we've got some listed and one STEM-based, are we envisioning one STEM-based class that all 6th graders will take? Or, because you referenced the program of studies, the course offerings, are we thinking about a couple different STEM options that the 6th graders actually get to say, hey, this is the one out of the 3 that I'm really interested in taking?
So because of the staffing piece, we're going to have to be making a consistent class that all of our students take. Now, just because it's STEM, there's a lot of different components that we can think through and expose kids to STEM. So when you look at these 6 exploratory options, everything that one kid takes will be the same as the student next to them takes as well. So everybody's going to have that consistent class that they're enrolled in, rotating throughout the year.
Okay. So the elective and the choice is really going to come in 7th and 8th?
Correct.
Okay.
Great. Any additional questions or comments? Thank you. Director Easton.
Just Matt, are we going to hear any update about the renovation that's we're doing at the junior highs, just to make sure that we're okay in terms of timeline?
Yeah, I can get you an update in between, but as we've talked about these middle school updates, they'll keep coming back to you too. So I can provide some information in between, but we could also have something more substantive the next time we do a middle school update and focus that one a little bit on facilities and maybe programming both and do some combo. But yep,
Okay.
we'll follow up some more.
Okay, thanks.
Great, thank you so much. Next up is our action item, and it is the 100 series policy. If there's no additional comments or questions from board members, I would open it up for a motion.
I move that we approve the 100 series.
Second.
Board Secretary Coven, we're ready to vote.
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
And that takes us to our last item on the agenda, and it is agenda setting. First up, on October 10th, there will be an operations committee meeting. Not sure if the item that's going to be discussed has been identified yet, but we look forward to seeing that.
I know that Deputy Superintendent Ramey had a whole list of things that he wanted to cover this year in August, and I am sure that he is going to tell me which item we are going to cover in October.
The board will not be disappointed.
Okay. That
So
takes
you
us,
just got to come to find out.
that takes us to our regularly standing meeting. All of the normal standing items are there. We will hear again about the 200 series policies and just checking to see if there's any other additional items. Director Pilcher-Hyatt?
Can I add one for the parking lot?
Go
Just-
right ahead. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
So I just want to keep on our radar the thoughts we've had about the disparate demographics in our schools and how we're going to be approaching that indefinitely. It's not some new problem, but it's something that may call for new solution thinking. So I just want to have, at some point, I know everyone thinks about it, but I think we got to bring it up to the front at some point sooner than later as we're embarking on middle schools, like I said earlier.
One item for the parking lot, I would like to just get a sense of where our balances are for meal accounts across the district. If we can get an update on that, I'm just curious to know how many kids might be sitting at a deficit or how much deficit we're carrying and ways that we could potentially problem solve that. Are there any other items? Superintendent Degner, were there a couple items you wanted to make sure we highlight or we talk about in the agenda setting?
Nothing that's coming to mind at the moment. Both of these items you guys brought up, I think, are good ones. The team's been working on some RAM alternatives, and so I'm not sure if we'd be ready at the next one. I know Maka said parking lot, so we'll keep it in the parking lot, but I do think there's some good thoughts there. JP had kind of mentioned it's a little bit more difficult to RAM some of those secondary classes, but similar to the same concern sometimes we're talking about with elementaries, right? Knowing that funding's limited from the state, we might have to start looking at some creative ideas about how do we RAM the school per se, right? That it's not just always class sizes that we can impact, but there's other potential things we can do. So we've been working on some of those concepts, and I know we'll look forward to talking to you about that at some point. The other one that Ruthina mentioned about the nutrition deficit, I think there's some new news on that today about schools qualifying at a lower percentage for completely free meals for the school. So, but when Chase and I were looking at the article earlier today, the percentages didn't match up with our previous understanding of the guidance. So I need to learn some more about that, but we'll have an update about that too when we bring it back. So did you find out more?
I did, and I was, I'm talking to Allison tomorrow, but I'm glad Superintendent Degner brought that up because I think it does create a lot of excitement, but it's about a specific program. And so we will bring some clarification because I think there will be some misinformation out there and some assumptions that it is much more widespread than it actually impacts. So our initial read is that the impact's going to be much smaller than maybe the headlines have shown, but we will get the clarity for you and bring some information back. That's a good companion piece to when we talk about the nutrition deficit.
I think that's a good one to move pretty close to the top of it. I mean, it's obviously something being talked about statewide and nationwide, but I'm unaware if there are certain things the district can do or you know, you can apply for. So any of that information, I can imagine how many families would love to know more about it. You know, why we can't provide it, or if we can discount it, or whatever it is. Because anyone who pays has that thing, that automatic withdrawal coming from the lunch. It's amazing how much lunch costs, right? So I think that's a really good one to move up if we can, when the information is ready.
It's really amazing your kids are getting that extra piece of pizza every day. It really is.
All right. Okay, that takes us to the end of our meeting, and I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.